Ashes of the Singularity 2 is proving that there is still life in real-time strategy. But before we get to that, Stellaris 4.3 arrives on Tuesday, and it's the biggest patch for Paradox's flagship Space 4X for a long time. Welcome to Critical News. Stellaris 4.3 Cetus releases on Tuesday, and if you've got an active campaign you should probably know what you're walking into before you load it up. This is not a routine patch. The preliminary release notes printed out to 24 A4 pages, and the two systems at the centre of it touch essentially every playstyle in the game. The economic rebalance is the big of the two. The stated goal is a generally lower power level across the board, targeting the kind of non-linear modifier stacking that has allowed certain build paths to reach values the developers clearly never intended. Job efficiency bonuses have been reduced across most sources. Many flat output modifiers have been converted to efficiency modifiers, tech costs have been cut in half alongside the research output reductions, the stability bonuses have been brought down to roughly a third of their previous values. Several challenges that experienced players have learned to trivialise, particularly roaming space fauna, crises and fallen empires, have been strengthened relative to where player power now sits. The developers are clear that Crisis fleet power has been reduced in absolute terms, but because player power has dropped by a larger percentage, they will be significantly more dangerous than before 4.3. The naval overhaul is a complete rethink of how fleets are composed and what they cost. Naval capacity usage has been multiplied by 5 across most ship types, with corvettes now costing 5, destroyers 10, cruisers 20 and battleships 40. The intent is smaller fleets where each ship carries increased importance, with higher tier components and construction costs to match. Armour and shields have been rebalanced with hardening built into higher tiers, combat should last longer as a result, and Titan class weapons now deal area of effect damage to nearby ships when they land a hit, which changes the calculus around fielding them considerably. The performance work is the third pillar, and it is substantial. Threading improvements to the economic and modifier systems, a major rework of modifier calculations across planets, ships, fleets, leaders and armies, and a collection of targeted optimizations that the developers summarise as a roughly 10% reduction in frame processing time, with smoother monthly calculations as the most noticeable practical effect. Stability improvements are also in, though lead developer Eladrin has been explicit that multiplayer stability and AI competence are not yet where he wants them to be and will remain a priority after release. There's a few things worth noting that did not make the cut for 4.3. The slavery mechanics rework is deferred. The faction and ethics experiment previewed in Dev Diary 411 is also deferred. Both are flagged for future updates rather than abandoned. Post-release support on 4.3 is expected to run 4 to 6 weeks, after which Paradox has indicated they may start talking about what comes next as Stellaris approaches its 10th anniversary. The release candidate is already live on the beta branch if you want an early look, otherwise Tuesday the 17th is the date. Landing in the top 50 most played demos across the entirety of Steam Next Fest is a great result for any game, but for a large-scale RTS it carries a significance that goes beyond the numbers. The genre has spent the better part of a decade being told there's no audience for it, and Ashes of the Singularity 2 just put a fairly concrete counter-argument in front of that claim. Ashes 2 is the sequel to the 2016 original from Stardock and Oxide Games, built on Oxide's Nitrous engine, which was designed from the ground up to handle the kind of unit counts that would collapse most conventional RTS engines. The original made a name for itself by operating at a scale most real-time strategy games won't attempt, and the sequel is pushing that further. 3 factions are fighting for control of the solar system: the United Earth Forces, the Post-Human Coalition, and the AI Substrate. The core design position is that the best strategy wins rather than the fastest hands, which is a direct counter to how a lot of the genre is developed. The Steam Next Fest demo represented an early alpha build rather than a stripped down version of the finished product, and the developers said so clearly in their post-Next Fest video. 2 factions were playable. The Substrate, the game's third faction, remains in development. The campaign was absent. Procedural map generation was also absent. A range of usability improvements already present in internal builds did not make it into the public release. The developers also jumped into multiplayer matches during Steam Next Fest to gather feedback alongside players directly, and they've indicated that input is actively shaping what comes next. The post-mortem video they released was more transparent about where development stands than most studios would be comfortable being, which is either a sign of confidence or a reaction to rough edges in the demo that needed contextualizing. Given the performance numbers, it reads more like the former. The 2 playable factions gave a reasonable picture of the design direction. The United Earth Forces are built around numbers, durability, and sustained ground pressure, large armies that absorb punishment and keep pushing. The Post-Human Coalition abandoned biological form entirely and fields smaller, more expensive forces built around precision and combined arms thinking. requiring air superiority and specialist units working together rather than mass and momentum. The design contrast between them is deliberate and wide enough to support different approaches to the same conflict. The scale remains the defining characteristic. Ashes 2 is managing thousands of units across maps large enough that reading the battlefield means pulling the camera out to orbital distance, then back down to individual engagements. That design holding at a competitive level is a question that will need a more complete build to answer, but as a statement of intent it is one of the most ambitious positions in the genre right now. No release date has been confirmed, and development continues across all three fronts: the substrate faction, the campaign, and ongoing balance work. CiviRevival is a 4X and RPG hybrid set in a spacefaring civilization context, developed by a Chinese studio that's been running invitation-only testing rounds before deciding to open access to the public. The public demo is now live on Steam, and the reasoning the developers gave for the shift is straightforward. 2 closed testing rounds gave them structured feedback from a known group. Now they want impressions from a wider range of players before the full release. What's in the demo is more substantial than a typical early access taster. The team has put through a complete UI overhaul, a new technology system, a ship modification hangar, new character classes with a dedicated character ship system, reworked opening narrative and early exploration content, and a comprehensive upgrade to the combat system. The current demo covers approximately 30 in-year games of progression, with the full release targeting 100. The developers have been clear that the demo represents a complete framework of the core systems rather than a slice of finished content, and the next phase of development is focusing on filling that out. The game does not have much Western coverage yet, and the developers appear to be actively working on that. They've set up separate contact channels specifically for overseas players, email and Steam discussions alongside the Discord and Telegram, which is a small detail but a deliberate one. Early access is targeting sometime this year. The demo is available now. And now for the headlines. 3 new creator packs landed for Crusader Kings III this week. North Pacific attire covers indigenous clothing from the North Pacific and East Arctic regions alongside 9 new buildings including temples and tribal settlements. East Asian Wonders brings 22 landmarks across East and Southeast Asia, from the Great Buddha of Kamakura to Angkor Wat. Celestial Court attire covers clothing and headdresses from across the dynastic courts of East Asia. All 3 are available now individually or as a bundle at around 17% off. Tempest Rising has a quality of life update out, adding hotkeys for selecting all support units on the map or screen, an option to start the campaign with all doctrines and equipment unlocked, and a post-match rank change display. On the balance side, the DCU has been reworked with a larger comms jammer area and reduced cost. The Hammerhand now detects stealth, and the Tempest Sphere drops a demolitionist on death. The update also confirms the Veti faction remains in active development. Separately, Tempest Rising also won 2 awards at the 2026 Danish Game Awards. Sanctuary Shattered Sun is running a live multiplayer showcase on Discord on Saturday the 21st of March, 5 PM Eastern, 9 PM GMT and 10 PM CET, with the developer AMA alongside it. You'll need to be a member of the Sanctuary Discord to take part. There's an invite link in the description. On Friday on the Critical Moves podcast, we welcome back Dr. Ben Ainger from Capture Age to dig into the question of innovation in strategy games. It's a good one. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this, hit the subscribe button. Or don't, whichever causes the least uncomfortable sensation.